So as you can see, we have like different tabs, but the main
Yeah.
ones are the papers. And
Yep.
so as a
Yes,
user,
our zin's bad for your health. No way. Can we click to that
yeah,
maybe?
we have actually a cool story about this because like Yuga, I don't know if you know the guy Yuga.eth person on Twitter basically went out with a question today on Twitter and be like, hey, does anyone have any kind of like scientific evidence about Zins? Are they good? Are they bad? And what Jeff did, Jeff tagged the Research Hub community, and I came in and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna put a $400 bounty on Research Hub.
All right, welcome back to ABTV. I just came up with that this morning. We're coming live from the Education and Deep Value channel. We're trying to make learning fun. Well, what's fun? Making absurd amounts of money is definitely fun. Changing the world and being revolutionary is fun. And building something like your life depends on it is definitely pretty fun. It's exhilarating. Gets me jacked just thinking about it. So I'm sitting here with three guys that are all doing those things. On Farcaster, it seems like everyone's doing those things. I'm your host, the AB rocket pilot, piloting the moonbound spaceship you guys know and love that is AB. AB helps the world understand blockchain and maximize UEV, user extractable value. We're trying to give power to the users, onboard the world to all these awesome apps that everyone on chain is building. But we're here to talk about two different letters today. That is RH, Research Hub. We want to dive into the platform, trying to lift up the rocks on this platform, get all the alpha, find out where is the value on Research Hub. We're going to be talking about the new culture in science that Research Hub is proliferating. And we really want to help onboard the masses, talk about ways to get people involved, even if you're not an elite scientist. But before that, let's get to know two of the directors of the Research Hub Foundation, Riccardo and Jeff. First off, how you guys doing today?
Hey Mark, great to see you, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having us. And yeah, we're excited to really get into the meat of the conversation.
Right on. Shouts out to our mutual friend Julio for bringing us all together as well. Hope he's listening. So first off, we'll get into you guys' origin stories. But I just maybe for the background and the audience, you want to just give a brief intro on you guys' selves and your focus in science?
Yeah, 100%. So I'll start. So I'm Riccardo, everyone. I'm still a PhD student. I'm in my third year of my PhD here in Italy. I studied at the Polytechnic of Milan. I'm doing my PhD in bioengineering. And so basically what I'm doing, what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years is I'm building a diagnostic device that uses saliva to basically detect some molecules in your saliva and give you an overall kind of like status of your oral health. So much of my focus in my life has been around engineering, trying to build stuff. And so I've been involved with robotics, and now I'm shifted into bioengineering. So also been in crypto since 2017. So that's kind of like where the marriage between, crypto and science comes from. So I'll be, talking about that a bit more later, but that's kind of like the gist of it.
Yeah. And then as for myself, I have also like a background in traditional science. So I did my undergraduate at UC San Diego in physiology and neuroscience. And then I did a 2-year stint right after that in biotech. So I worked at a biotech company that worked on manufacturing antibodies for research use. And so did kind of a 2-year stint in like the industry side of science afterwards. And then another couple of years doing a master's where I worked on some like gene editing related things for like my basic sciences, but also worked on like the opportunity to work on a clinical trial, which was really cool on canines actually. And then after that went into a PhD. So that was like a 5.5-year stint there at UC Riverside, and that was in biomedical sciences. So like really focused on neuroimmunology and virology. Which was like really kind of a crazy time with when COVID hit in the middle of it, because it was like right up our alley to try to tackle. And then yeah, so I finished my PhD and then have now been on Research Hub Foundation kind of full time and as a director. And like Riccardo, I started in the crypto space in 2017, where it was really early at the time, and everyone was really more focused on just price go up and Bitcoin and some of the basic stuff like proof of work versus migrating to proof of stake for Ethereum, and DeFi summer hadn't even happened. And I think with the onset of like DeFi summer and NFTs and that happened in the last cycle, I think people started thinking more about what's the intersection of blockchain with all these other like sectors that exist. And I know at that time, both Riccardo and I were thinking about building a product like Research Hub, where it was like Riccardo was saying, it married like the idea of blockchain and science together, and it was happening already. And we were like, well, damn, we need to hop on board and join this movement because this thing has legs on it. So yeah, we can talk a little bit more about that.
Right on. That's awesome. So you kind of got into the crypto and blockchain side a bit. I do want to dive into origin story for both crypto and science. So we can start with crypto. Was Research Hub you guys' first exposure to blockchain?
So for me, again, I started in 2017, but it was more about just like, buying some coins, like being interested in the space more broadly. Then I had to kind of like stick to the market and, marrying my some bags for like a couple of years in the bear market. And that, when I talk about it, it's like kind of feels a bit weird because like the first bear market that I experienced was really, really different from the last one that I went through. And so really felt like no one was building anymore. Well, this one was, quite different. And then in 2000, basically 2021, end of 2000, end of 2021, I started to think a bit more about how I could, basically make this passion for crypto intersect a bit more with like what I was doing in my day-to-day life. And so I started to look around on how to contribute to some projects, and then I found out about DeSci. And so I was like, okay, cool, there's something out there. My first DeSci project that I kind of like got into was Upsci. So a big shout out to Shadi at Absentia. And I kind of like was testing the waters in different projects. I learned about VitaDAO. They were the first one to do like a DeSci symposium. And then I registered on Research Hub. I then spent a couple days on that, and then I left it for a couple months. And then I came back at the end of 2021 when the editor program started. We'll definitely talk about that later. And that's when I joined. I got into the editor program as an editor. And then literally with Jeff, once we started like getting into like the inside of the team, started to build out the DAO a bit more, the community a bit more. So I would say definitely the first big role for me in crypto. I've also done other stuff, like I've been involved with tokenomics DAO. I love analyzing tokenomics, token design, token engineering, stuff like that. I also taught a few courses at Token Engineering Academy, kind of like all public goods. I was just really passionate about it. And so I held a few cohorts of Italian people wanting to learn about token engineering. So I would say my passion is in crypto is like DeSci and the old token engineering, token design space.
Right on.
Yeah, and then for me also 2017 was kind of my foray into crypto. It was I told this to Ricardo earlier, but yeah, I started actually mining Zcash. One of my friends had told me at the time and during my master's, hey, I can help you build the mining rig and you can start mining Zcash. And our idea was to put the rig in the lab space so we could use the electricity from the campus to power the mining rig. But we ended up being too scared to do that and then just ran it like at my house. But that was like kind of how I got kickstarted. And I think a lot of the story for a lot of people is always kind of this come for the money, stay for the technology type of thing. And it was very much that for me where kind of, you got in there because, at the time I was a master's student, was not making any money. And I was like, hey, there's this opportunity to make money. And then you kind of ride it out through your first bear market and it's a little painful. And then, but you have your eyeballs on it. And then in like 2020, 2021, there started to become this, new narrative, a new uptick really around DeFi. And that was a really exciting time because it's like, okay, well, now you can do all these like financial services, but on chain, and you have your like self-custodied wallets and things for that. And then around 2021, like while we were deep into that bull market, I started thinking, okay, well, blockchains are public ledgers. People are using it to like transfer and like store finances. Why not use it to like kind of store and like transfer value around scientific publications and content around like data and things like that. So I was like, that feels like a good fit. Like all of science should be public anyway. So why not do it on a blockchain? so that's kind of where I started digging into it. And like Riccardo, I found VitaDAO was kind of the first thing, but I don't have experience in longevity per se. So I started digging around more, and then I saw Brian Armstrong post a tweet saying, "Hey, at Research Hub, we're like looking for editors." And it was like around Christmas time. I said, "Why not? I'll just throw in my name in the hat," and then got started there. And then, like Riccardo, I think our kind of involvement in crypto and as our science experience made it kind of the perfect storm for us to like really help build out the DAO and the community and all the infrastructure around the Research Hub platform that the Research Hub users might be involved in or use. So yeah, that's a little bit of my onboarding.
Right on. And it seems editors may be the power users on Research Hub. And we'll dig into that and all the roles in a bit. As far as to go back in time even more, what got you guys into science from a young age? What's up with that? I used to love science as well. I think it was my favorite subject in school growing up for sure, but I am definitely not a scientist. But you guys are. So what's the difference there?
Yeah, that's actually a great question that I don't get asked much. It's more like how do you get into crypto? Because like how do you get into science is really like going back to for me like high school. High school is when I realized okay I wanted to be an engineer, kind of like build stuff. I love to build stuff, and so I was playing with Legos at when I was a kid, and just like I love to build stuff, and so I was like okay cool. I think it's for me it's engineering really, and I was actually with Julia. We were like, planning to do stuff. We went to the first kind of like university together. We did like biochemical engineering together, and then I realized that I had a passion for doing some research, but I still wasn't like super convinced about a PhD. So what I did is I went through the bachelor, 3 years in Italy. Unfortunately, the bachelor in Italy in general, like studying in Italy, is a lot about learning from the books and not doing much. And so I kind of like felt I wanted to just do something different, have a change. I decided to go to the US. That was another big dream of mine since I was little. I wanted to go to the US, just like really love the culture there. And so, yeah, I went to Georgia Tech. That really completely changed my perspective. I got to work with like insanely talented people in the lab, and working a lot as well, but learning also a ton. And that's basically when I realized, okay, maybe I want to do something more. I actually want to make a dent into the scientific community. And so I decided to go for a PhD. I did a little work at Siemens, just like 6, 7 months just to try out the industry. But then I was decided, okay, I want to do a PhD, and that's how I got into my doctoral degree. I had this crazy good opportunity because like not everyone gets it to basically build my own PhD. So I found this professor in Italy who wanted to basically build sensors and biosensors for saliva, but he's a dentist, he's a clinical professor, doesn't know how to do that. I wanted to do something of my own, and I also had this like entrepreneurial mindset where it was cooler for me to start something from scratch. And so I took on his invitation to come back to Italy. I came back and I started building the device that I'm basically finalizing right now. So for me, science is a way to kind of like express myself and hopefully build something that works and show to people that you can kind of like start from an idea and end up with a product, ideally a product like, before that, a prototype that people can use and test and see, which is really exciting.
Right on. Jeff, how about you? From a young age, was it Legos? Was it Dexter's Lab?
I did watch Dexter's Laboratory, but
DD?
uh, I don't know if it was very much like from like a young age that I can think of. I was always like actually a little bit more into math. So it's still in the STEM field, but actually like just had a natural proclivity for like math, and I felt like I was like good at it. And so you naturally kind of enjoy the stuff that you feel like you're good at. And then I started doing biology, when I was in high school. And I think really where it started taking off for me was and this is like absolute like dweeb energy, but I was in something called Science Bowl when I was in high school. So it's kind of like almost like a Jeopardy, but with only like science questions. And I think that was like where I established a lot of like my community and friend group, and it was really exciting. There was like a little competitive edge to it. And I kind of got excited about the science aspect there. I focused on biology and chemistry at the time. and then moved over into undergrad, and I was like, okay, I want to pursue this. I found the brain quite fascinating, so I went into neuroscience just because it's like a black box. It's like one of the only black boxes left of like the human system. Because like everything else, like a heart, just pumps, like it's like an engineering problem kind of. And so I got really excited about that, and I think like Ricardo, I'm also like I'm less, in my opinion, like I think the pursuit of knowledge is important, but it's not the main driving force for me. Like I'm not trying to just pursue knowledge out of like the curiosity of it. I think there's like therapeutics and like medical devices and like products that can come out of a lot of the research that people do. And I think there's this like lens that a lot of people look at science through, which is just these academics who just want to learn about something with no like pragmaticism behind it. And I think there's some truth in that, but I think there's a group of people that are in there to like create something like for the betterment of like patients, for the betterment of like your everyday person or something like that. And so I kind of got into it more from that angle. And so yeah, it just that entrepreneurial kind of mindset has always been brewing for me. And so I pounced on it when, Research Hub came around.
That's awesome. So let's bring it back to Research Hub. What is the ultimate goal for a scientist? Is there a common denominator? And does Research Hub help achieve that ultimate goal?
Yeah, so I would say that for scientists is and Jeff, feel free to chime in if you have a different opinion. But like in my opinion, like when you get into the hard science, like especially like you do a PhD. I've met a lot of people doing PhDs, and we have different ideas. Like for example, for me, it was about using the PhD time to build a product that would ultimately serve myself in the sense that like now now I know that I know how to build a product from like ideation from scratch to like building something that works. For other people, it's just about being in academia and again making a dent in the scientific community and be like, okay, maybe I'm mastering this knowledge, and so the goal for a scientist might be to be recognized in a specific field, establishing his own field because there's scientists creating their own fields, and so I would say like there's not really a common denominator. The common denominator most of the time is curiosity. So what you would always recognize in scientists, the like this desire to pursue knowledge, pursue like something that is not already out there, discovering something new, and that could be just like a method of putting something together and make it work, or it could actually be a new branch of science. So I would say the only common denominator that I see among scientists is this like curiosity, but the means of like getting to success for a scientist can be really different.
Yeah, nothing to add on top of that. I would say the curiosity to either learn or the curiosity to do. Those are the two really big angles there.
Right. And so those means to success, that ability to learn and do you guys think Research Hub is bringing people closer to that?
I would say it is. I would say it is, especially because like if you look at Research Hub, the front face is, and you'll see it like when we show the front page, you see it's first of all a group of people, a community of people that are interacting, that are creating something together. So you'll see people collaborating and putting together a post, which is a literature review of the state of the art of a specific technology. There's people helping each other. If you don't have a specific expertise in something, but I know someone in the community that might have it, then I'll connect you guys both so that you can, collaborate and create something. So I see this really reflected in Research Hub. So where people with different metrics or ideals for success come together to create a shared kind of like, shared value, I would say.
That's amazing. Cool. Well, let's hop into the platform. Let's take a look. I know there's a lot of people in the world that actually want to see, what you guys have built and what this platform does, and look at some of the cool features. So I'll just start by saying, I've done a good amount of research. I mean, at AB, what we do, our mission is research, education, and investing, right? So, a very large portion of my job is research, maybe not in the scientific field, but much more on, on chain, a lot of different blockchain projects. But, just from digging into some of you guys' past interviews with yourselves, with some other core members, one of your core members, Jonathan, described Research Hub as a Reddit for science and on chain. And I mean, I think that's beautiful and well said and a big deal, right? I've been speaking a lot about Reddit in the past couple months with our activity on Farcaster increasing. Now, I think Reddit was so successful because, it built the infrastructure for communities to build even more, right? So, Reddit, their team didn't have to fill out and populate all of the different subreddits, right? They just built that infrastructure that enabled so many other people to build for them. But, I think in recent years, you've seen Reddit struggling because the people that build those communities, like the mods, they don't really get paid, right? So you see them going on strike and you see them, shutting down subreddits. And you look at something like Farcaster and Warpcast, shouts out to those teams in that application. They're absolutely revolutionizing that because they have a similar stack like Reddit, but you're actually incentivizing, fixing these broken incentives, making it so that all these, content creators and moderators can actually earn. So I think if we take a look at, Research Hub and see you guys doing a sort of version of that, but specifically focused on science and scientists and the science community and publishing, I think that's amazing. So I want to know, from the perspective of building Research Hub first, what is the definition of success for the platform? Now, I've been listening to Barmstrong, shouts out Big B, and Joyce, the co-founders of Research Hub. They said on a good day, bioRxiv has 10% of biomedical literature. I want to know, what is the first thing that you guys check every day when you open up Research Hub as builders? What key metrics are you hype about? What are you checking daily to ensure that Research Hub is growing well or not? And are those metrics public, and can we see them?
Jeff, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so we have like a few North Star metrics that we're looking at from the angle of like the platform. We have weekly active contributors. So these are essentially users who perform any kind of action on the platform. So you can have users that are just passively browsing and just like being consumers of the content. But a weekly active contributor is someone who's like doing some kind of meaningful action on the platform. So that's one metric that we look at. The other metric that I think is a better metric in my opinion, but it's a little bit more niche, is how many peer reviews are coming in through the platform. So one of the big initiatives we have is like incentivized peer review. So we're putting money up for scientists to come in and peer review specifically preprints from bioRxiv and archive. And that number, we set a goal for that, and we're hitting that every couple weeks. And so, in my opinion, that is success because we're hitting our goals that we're setting, but we're also filling in this like really underappreciated area in science right now, which is people do not get paid money to peer review content, and that causes huge bottlenecks in the publication flow. And so I'm particularly excited about that because we're resolving like a bottleneck where we're bringing the scale closer to fair by giving money to people for their time. And it's resulting in people being very happy to come on the platform because we're like the venue that provides that. So that's like probably in my opinion, like the best metric to look at least in the stage that we're at now.
And maybe Jeff, we want to give a little bit of context around like what is a preprint, what is a peer review process, because like it's basically think about a research team in a lab. They are working on on a specific research, and now they want to publish this research out for the public to see it. So what happens is that they draft a manuscript. So they put together a draft summarizing the research, the results, their methods that they use to conduct the research. And then when they want to publish it, what they do is they send this draft, which is basically called the preprint, to a journal for to be considered for publication. What a journal does is the journal recruits some peer reviewers, so reviewers of this, of scientific publications. And what they do is they read a draft, they put on some comments, and they say, I would accept or reject this paper for publication. The problem with this whole peer review process is that the peer reviewers are not paid. They're basically doing this job for free. And so when Jeff was saying that we're really proud about our peer review initiative, is that we on Research Hub are instead paying peer reviewers about $150 to $200 per peer review. So that's where, like, I think Research Hub is a bit changing the rules of the game with what we're doing.
Got it. And back to these North Star metrics, how do we boost them in a genuine way, right? We don't want to just pump the numbers, but, to boost these North Star metrics, getting more people, in these different roles engaged. How do we do that?
So I would say, like, what we've done for now, it's gonna like the famous hand-in-hand combat. So for example, I'm in a lab, I'm in a research lab. I talk to my peers, my lab mates, and be like, hey guys, you should check out Research Hub. It's a really cool project, and everyone's here to benefit from it. So this is one thing. Obviously, like when you're growing 1% at a time is hard to make it scale, basically. So I think like the next step for Research Hub to have this number grow in an organic way is going to universities, going to conferences, talking to scientists, because like a lot of these scientists are feeling the pain. Maybe they just don't have the platform to kind of like divert their attention to, because maybe it doesn't exist. And so they would like to find a way out of the system, or kind of like find a parallel system that would work better for them, but they need to know about it. And so outreach, sending emails, talking to people, that's kind of like the best way for us to make this project grow.
Cool. Jeff, anything to add, or we're good here?
Yeah, I think like really like diving into the universities, we have one of the strengths, in my opinion, of like a web, because like, we are a Web3 community at the end of the day too. And I think one of the strengths of that is like a distributed community, right? So like as opposed to some localized like hub, everyone lives in this geographic region. That's not the case with us. At the Research Hub Foundation, we have like contributors, like core contributors, peripheral contributors from Europe, from Asia, from like different like areas spanning all of the US. And the strength of that is a lot of them are scientists in nature, and they're already at universities. So it's not that you need to have this whole thing, like this whole kind of tour where somebody from your company needs to go around to all these different venues. They're actually already there at these venues. And it's as simple as talking to the administrative person you've talked to for the last 3 years and saying, hey, can we get an email chain going out to like the rest of the department? Or like I have my colleagues, their colleagues have colleagues, they all have group chats. So that's like really an underappreciated strength of a distributed community is you have everybody there to do guerrilla marketing all the time. So I think that's definitely a go-to place, as well as like plugging in with some of the kind of big players in the science world. I think if you get around to doing that, then people who attend those venues just automatically see your platform and then kind of migrate over out of curiosity, which is, as Riccardo mentioned, a strength of scientists is their curiosity. So just another lens to look at it through.
Got it. Let's dig into the roles here on the platform. So what are the specific roles? Who is actually using Research Hub? Is there a fixed amount of roles? I've seen and heard about editors, moderators, scientists. So could I get a quick answer to that? What are just the roles?
Yeah, I can give you like a rundown of let's call them like the personas that we have found on Research Hub. So there's a general user, the person that goes on Research Hub, opens the homepage, browse through the papers, reads a bunch of papers, maybe leaves a bit of like upvotes and downvotes, and then just leaves.
I see some papers here. Is this every single role would have that same view, looking at these
Yes.
papers? Scrolling
Yes,
through?
exactly. So basically what you do, you log into Research Hub. Now I'm logged in already, but basically like if you log out here and log in back again, it's really easy. It's a one-click login with Google, or you can have like, email and password. And then like what you do is you see this homepage, okay? And so as you can see, we have like different tabs, but the main
Yeah.
ones are the papers. And
Yeah.
so as a
Yes,
user,
our sin's bad for your health. No way. Can we click on that?
yeah.
Maybe.
We have actually a cool story about this, because like Yuga, I don't know if you know the guy Yuga.eth person on Twitter basically went out with a question today on Twitter and be like, hey, does anyone have any kind of like scientific evidence about Zins? Are they good? Are they bad? And what Jeff did, Jeff tagged the research hub community, and I came in and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna put a $400 bounty on research hub for anyone that has any evidence on this to provide evidence and create a little literature review, which is basically like a overview of the state of the art around nicotine pouches and so on. And that bounty actually grew already to $1,100 in 8 hours. So that was pretty cool because other
So
people.
is that that's not because of the price of RSC moving. That's because
No.
more people have added to this bounty.
Exactly. So other people that were interested as well in kind of like funding this question, they just came in, they chimed in, and they put together some other RSC to increase kind of like this bounty size. And so let me actually kind of, as you can see here, I'm listed at as the author because I was the one posting the question. And so I put this article that says basically like, Argin's bad for you. And I was asking for some evidence. And so actually we already have 1 hour ago, someone commented and put together, several paragraphs.
Okay. So a couple questions. So first off, who can actually contribute to the full bounty? Like other people can add, and then I see this we have an answer from Mr. Baudo. Who then decides if he gets paid if the bounty releases?
Yeah, so as you can see, everyone can add RC to the bounty. So I can just like click on this button and add some more to the
So
bounty.
anyone with a wallet, even as just a reader, I'm not a scientist, but I'm, someone who I've heard of these Zen things, I'd like to know if they were good or bad for you. And, if I wanted that question to get answered and I have a wallet, I can just connect that and add to the bounty.
Yeah, you just need to have RSC in your wallet, put it on your profile. We have a really easy here withdraw and deposit function. So it's really easy to put RSC from your Web3 wallet onto the platform. And then you can just like contribute to it. And as you can see here, contribute to bounty as well. Then as for the award, as you can see, there's me, there's another contributor, Tyler, and there's also Jeff who chipped in. And so we are basically going to decide how to distribute the bounty to whoever has replied to this question if it satisfies kind of like the requirements that we set out for the bounty.
Right. And so where do you set out those requirements? Is that above in the prompt?
Yeah, exactly. So I can do it in a more, I would say conversational way or in a more strict way. I can show you both. This was like really like an easy way to put it was, hey, I'm looking for current evidence. Please list, benefits and concern. I want peer-reviewed references. Okay. So I don't want just your opinion. Hey, I think they're bad because, nicotine sucks and whatever. I want stuff coming from actual papers and scientific records. And also, this is something that unfortunately we have seen quite a lot, and we're probably going to talk about it as well. People just coming in, putting some AI generated content that's kind of like low quality. We want to keep that out of research hub because it's not. We want to keep the scientific bar really high. And so I was like, AI generated answers won't qualify for this bounty, and comments like this will be removed as low quality. So that's kind of like how I set the requirements. You can also be way more precise and strict, just listing a specific, just like putting together a specific list of requirements. So I only want papers from, I don't know, 2010 to 2020, or I only want papers around the specific nicotine product and not others. So it's up to you when you create a bounty to set the requirements.
Very cool. And then it being released, right? Is that some sort of like a multi-sig, or is there someone that's more in charge than the other? Are you, you put up your $400 worth and other people contributed, but, are you in charge of just releasing your $400, or how does that work, the release of the bounty?
Yeah, so basically it's all happening on the platform. So something that I wanted to clarify is that whenever you upload, you basically, you have your wallet, your Web3 wallet, you have RSC in your wallet. When you then deposit RSC on the platform, what happens is that these like basically become like off-chain points. And so there's not really like a multi-chain, a multi-sig. It's basically you have your profile with your loaded RSC that are just points on the platform. And whenever you withdraw those, RSC, they become back again, tokens in your wallet. So that's kind of like how it works for everything on the platform.
Got it. And so this guy who answered, Gerardo Baudo, shouts out to Gerardo. Is he, I know he's a user, but he's not a moderator and he's not an editor, right? He's just
Yeah.
what the platform would just call a user.
Exactly. Exactly. He's a user. You can see he's actually a verified user. So this is something that I really want to emphasize because I think it's important, especially when you see like, civil off, actors and malicious actors coming on the platform to kind of like spam the platform or extract value. Because you talk about user extractable value, something that I really want to talk about is like how we perceive extraction of value
Mm-hmm.
different from like gaining value for your contribution. So we're probably going to talk about this a bit more, but like this guy, he's verified. So we have verified that he is actually Gerardo. We have his credentials. We know where he attended school and so on. He's a verified user. And so he's kind of like a trusted a party on the platform, but he's a general user. So he's not an editor. You can see editors because like, for example, I can I can pull up some other editors that I know on the platform. For example, this guy Krishna, you see here in his profile, he is the editor of the physics hub. And so he will have this editor tag in his profile. Everyone that is an editor will have this editor tag basically.
Got it. So we have users, we have verified users, we have editors, and we have moderators. Is that correct?
So the editors are considered to be the moderators. We kind of call them like curators of science because like for example when I joined as an editor with the editor program, I was curating my hub, which was the biosensing hub, which means I was checking all the content that was being uploaded in the hub, making sure that was like the right quality. I was also helping with the conversation. So let's say that someone comes in, there's a paper in a specific hub that is my hub, and there's a question coming in. If I'm the editor, I need to have the expertise to be able to help this user to answer their questions and so on. So these are the editors that are acting as moderators on the platform. We also have kind of like a self-moderation. I don't know, Jeff, if you have a different opinion here, but like everyone on Research Hub really is a moderator. So let's say that you're a user, you care about a platform, and you see something that is not of high quality. What you can do is you can flag the content. So let's say that let me come in here. I don't like this comment. What I can do is I can flag it. Not because I don't like it, actually. Sorry, my bad. It's like this is a bad comment. This is someone is trying to exploit the platform. What I can do is I can flag it, and then there's gonna be moderators from the Research Hub team that are actually gonna take it down if it doesn't meet the requirements of the platform.
Do you have to verify your identity to be a user, or are there anons on here?
There's also anons, so you can be an anon as long as you maintain a good behavior on the platform. We have nothing against anons. Actually, I think it's totally cool to be an anon, especially because like you're living. Sometimes there's this concept around leaving a peer review. You're reviewing someone else in public, and so sometimes you kind of like don't want to have your name associated with what you're saying. I would say like if I were to do it, I would probably put my name out there for the good and the bad reviews. But let's say you don't want to do it, that's totally fine. But you still have to act accordingly to our guidelines. So you can be anon. It's difficult for us to verify you as an anon. I don't think we have any anon verified user. Jeff, can you correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, I don't think so, but in theory, it's possible because we can just verify on the back end until like some of these more like zero knowledge identity type
Yeah.
of things come to fruition. But for now, it's a kind of a manual process where we could verify you on the back end and then give you the check mark on the front end.
Got it. So, clearly it seems like I love that you said that everyone in a way is a moderator, because I want to talk about, how do we boost that culture of good moderation, right? I mean, that's something it's hard to do in any ecosystem. Warpcast is dealing with that right now. And, for you guys to be able to uphold, benevolent moderators it's going to be a tough challenge, but it seems like, you're already doing a very good job by just having everyone be more actively involved. So, how do we, how do we balance that? I mean, shouts out to all the mods. And how do we make moderating sustainable in a way, but also, with these editors having a bit more power than just the general users, how do you protect against corruption of the editors?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's like this unfortunate like necessity, at least in like the interim, where given that there's like financialization of stuff, there's going to be people who are going to put like some low quality thing and try to like, farm some of the token. And so you need to have some kind of moderation in place until you get like the most optimal tokenomics or reward structure in place, where everything kind of lands in a way where people are really incentivized to like try to do these behaviors. So that I'd say is like one angle to look at it through. Another way to look at it through is the way that our platform works is we have like a pool of funds that get emitted over the year for contributors through the platform. And those pool of funds kind of get divided by 365, and then there's an amount of funds per day that will go out to the users. This is based off of like upvotes. And so if you think about it, if there's someone behaving nefariously and trying to farm the token, it thins out the rewards for good users who should be earning those upvotes and those tokens. And so those users have a vested interest in finding those nefarious users and flagging them, because they're kind of like eating a piece of their cake as well too. So there's like actually a little bit of like incentive baked into someone helping try to flag that content. But certainly like in the short term, I think having the moderation is necessary once this reward structure falls into place better. And the thing is too, that's really exciting about having this, governance token or governance around the research coin token is if the reward algorithm that is put in place starts to get gamed again, the reward algorithm can be voted on and adjusted so that it minimizes gaming of that. And if that starts getting gamed, then it can get adjusted again by the community. And so what'll happen is you have this ability for, we'll call it like a modular incentive structure. So the token holders can govern how the rewards can happen over time. And that allows us to be kind of like a moving target. So no one's ever like, you set in stone this way that's going to get spammed into oblivion,
Right. Right. That's awesome and pretty ingenious. What are some of these different tabs that we see here and some of these different areas that you guys can go interact with, as are all of these things that you just a normal user would use, or some of these only more for editors, and is there some other third role that is getting involved in Research Hub?
So I guess you're referring to the hubs. So these are the tags. Actually, we started with we had a recently, I would say, like probably the end of 2023, we changed our hub structure to use OpenAlex. Big shout out to OpenAlex. We've been using OpenAlex in the backend for some time now, and like they have like 7 layers of scientific, let's call them scientific tags. So if you were to go down the rabbit hole of a specific scientific discipline, what you would do, like what, how the rabbit hole will look like is you have the top level, for example, you have, engineering, and then you get into mechanical engineering, and then within mechanical engineering, you get into some specific mechanical element, and then maybe the physics regulating that specific mechanical element. So it kind of like thins down depending on the expertise. And so that's kind of like the layers of the hubs. How that works is you can go into hubs in here. You can see there's a ton of hubs. I think it's
Right.
the number of hubs is around 10,000, probably even more than that. And so what you do is you can search for specific hubs. So for example, today I was putting together the bounty. And so I was looking for a specific hub around nicotine. As you can see, we have nicotine, nicotine dependence, nicotine withdrawal, nicotine patch, replacement therapy, addiction, and nicotine gum. So you have a lot of different hubs where you can tag your content to. There's no specific user associated with a hub. There's an editor. In some hubs, we have about 15 editors that control some hubs, which that basically match their expertise. But everyone can upload in any hub that they want to. As you can see here, we are putting the number of the papers and discussions in a specific hub, but everyone can really interact in any hub as long as they actually do something meaningful and provide meaningful information.
Very cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask, Jeff, did you have something to add? Okay, I wanted to ask, what are the top 3 hubs that are getting, the most traction just naturally? And then maybe we could get into what are, 3 different hubs that you guys think maybe are not as popular, but should be for some other reasons. And then after that, I want to get into also, maybe this leads directly into migrating research onto Research Hub, and how that could potentially be lucrative for, a wide set of, either publishers or scientists, people who have already created groups of research.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
a
could
good
start with
question.
the top 3. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the top 3 hubs, like just naturally, our platform is gravitated to more of like a biomedical research type of focus. So based off of at least where we're seeing like the highest volume of peer reviews coming in, we just actually did like an analysis on like the back end for like this data. And it's coming in mostly in technically the hubs are neuroscience, medicine, and biology. And so I know medicine and biology are a little bit vague, and so the ones that are coming after that are immunology, and I can't remember the one after that, but probably molecular biology. So it's very much so in the realm of like biomedical sciences. And I think the 3 up and coming hubs, I would say, are probably the up and coming fields that are just happening broadly in like this probably STEM. And so that would be like a machine learning AI. I'm sure like those would be a good couple. At least in like the world of biology, the idea of like psychedelics being used to treat mental health disorders and schizophrenia and anxiety and depression and things. So that's probably another hub that I imagine would be on the come up. There's actually been I think on the ballot, there's a $5 billion kind of bill that's earmarking like for psychedelics research. I think it was in California. So like where we think the puck is going for some of these fields, AI kind of speaks for itself. We think those hubs are probably going to trail that.
Interesting. And so people who have already created content or, scientific papers on some of this stuff, I mean, it seems like if there's over, 100 different hubs, there's got to be a lot of students out there, whether they're grad students or maybe undergrad or maybe just, maybe even much older, experienced people, scientists who've, have massive bodies of work. They can actually get paid to migrate their uh, work and research onto Research Hub. Is that correct? Because that would seem pretty revolutionary to me. Oh, Ricardo, I think you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. So there's a pretty cool concept that we have, and this has been a concept that I've seen since the inception. So it was already here once I joined, and I discovered that by myself because I have a few papers uploaded, and so I kind of like went on and uploaded some of my papers and saw that myself. So it's called the pot of gold. So it's basically like a little pocket of RSC that gets accumulated if your paper is uploaded on Research Hub before you, as an author of the paper, join Research Hub. So let me get back to this. Everyone can upload anything on Research Hub. So let's say that Jeff has published an article. I can be the uploader of Jeff's article on Research Hub, even if I'm not the author. Okay. But what happens is, let's say that Jeff did great work. I believe he did. And he on Research Hub, his paper goes trending. He has a lot of upvotes. He has a lot of commentary on it. What happens is that the paper earns RSC. I'm not earning RSC. Actually, as the uploader, I'm earning a fraction of RSC, but it's a little fraction. Most of the RSC stays with the paper. What happens? I tell Jeff, hey, Jeff, your paper is on Research Hub. You should probably come and check out the platform. Jeff registers on Research Hub, and he wants to upload his article. Well, he finds out that his article is already on Research Hub. So what he can do is he can claim authorship. He has to demonstrate he's the author, usually through edu email, and just showing that you are the same person that is listed in the paper. And what happens is that as soon as the authorship claim gets approved, Jeff receives all the research coin that were stored with the paper. And so you can have like a bonus, like an incentive bonus to come on Research Hub, because like maybe your papers are already there on Research Hub and there's some RSC waiting for you, which I think is like just super cool.
Yeah, that is very awesome. And then you as the uploader, do you get any sort of cut of that as well? Or,
It's a
is there incentive
it's a
for you
small
to do
fraction.
that?
Yeah, it's a small
Right.
fraction. I can't remember exactly the percentage. I don't know, Jeff, if you have the exact number, but it's a small fraction compared to the overall pot.
Yeah, that's something tiny, like a percent or something like that for being like the uploader and then helping kind of promote attention onto that paper. But also wanted to tack on to what Ricardo said, which is if you are on the platform already and you publish a paper, you can upload that while you're already on the platform. If somebody upvotes that, you'll get, as an author, the money in real time as well too. So it's not just papers that existed before you joined, it's also as more papers come out from your kind of career, you can upload them here, and as they receive upvotes in real time, those will go to you.
Very cool. Very cool. So before we move away from the platform, is there any other, any other on the sidebar areas that we want to dig into? And, I do want to give you guys a chance to talk about some exciting features that the platform has that maybe likely only a small portion of people know about right now. Like, maybe only you guys as insiders are aware of some new tricks or updates that have gone live on Research Hub. Anything cool that you guys want to talk about, from actually usability standpoint and show off?
Okay, I can do a really quick rundown. There's a ton, so I'll try to be quick. So this is the paper page. We took a look at it. As you can see here, you can also tip a paper. Let's see, for example, people just want to tip this question because they think it's interesting. This is not going toward a bounty. This is going toward the uploader or the author of the article. So see it as something bigger than an upvote. So if I like your content this much that I would like to tip you, then I can do it on Research Hub. I can just like tip you as you would do to like at like a restaurant or so. There's a save function, the bookmark it. What this does is basically it saves it to the reference manager. We have at Research Hub built a reference manager, which is basically like a software. It's a platform that collects all the references that you're using when you're, for example, when you're writing an article. So when you write a scientific article, you have to put together a list of references, which is basically, I'm not saying all this by, this is not just coming out of my mouth. I am citing other people that have demonstrated in their research that this is factual. Okay. And so I need to reference them. The way it happens is you put together a list of references, and the way you normally organize your references is using a reference manager. So in here, you can save it to the Research Hub reference manager, which does basically that specific job. Then again, for the sake of time, let me go through some other cool stuff. There's a Latin notebook. I have perused this function. Because there's a lot of, this was actually the hackathon. So let me get into the editor program one, for example. Basically what you can do on the notebook, you can create some specific articles. You can create content and you can publish it on Research Hub. So for example, these are some for example some what is that, like the onboarding. Let me see if there's the yeah, this for example was an article about the onboarding of the editors. I could publish this. I could select the hub in which I want to publish. So for example, I like to publish this on Research Hub. I could do it selecting the hub, and then I could assign a DOI to it, and so publish natively on Research Hub. Other stuff that we're doing is we just did our second round of funding. So we're now starting to offer funding on Research Hub. It's like a crowdfunding platform like you would do on Kickstarter or GoFundMe. So these are researchers that have put together a really lengthy application to get funded on Research Hub, which, as you can see here, people have commented. This is another cool feature. It's the inline commenting. So you can also not only comment at the end of the paper, so leaving comments as other would do, but you can also comment about specific parts of the paper, which is I think something really, really effective. And these people have requested funding, and they have just received, actually, they've completed their fundraising. Other stuff that we have is, for example, the peer review. I showed you that already, but I can go back to it. This is a preprint, and people have peer reviewed. So you can peer review, any content on Research Hub, and you can leave a score based on the different sections of the paper. So this is another thing that we have. And then I would say that this is pretty much it. We have sections for bounties. So this is a specific, there's a live feed. There are sections where we highlight the open bounties for people to just like take a quick glance and see what's open out there. So ton of stuff. Just wanted to give a quick rundown of like what we have on Research Hub.
No, that's beautiful. I really appreciate actually digging into the platform, being able to look at it from, you guys are such experts on there. Sometimes when you're coming into a new platform, you don't really know how to dig around, but I think this is going to be useful to, even our audience and your audience as well. So down to move into the culture of science and research and how you guys are evolving that, right? So, do we talk about the broken traditional culture and science? Or the exciting new culture that you guys are building, right? I want to hit both just to give masses a better understanding, but I would much rather focus on the positive than the negative. So we'll talk about a couple things, and these are also things that I've learned from just doing research on you guys, researching Research Hub, the meta. So traditionally, I know that the NIH, National Institute of Health, the largest biomedical research agency in the world, they're traditionally not likely to fund risky or exciting studies. So I wanted to ask, what is a risky study and what is an exciting study?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, they tend to like fund a lot of stuff. It's really shunted into a lot of oncology research and neurodegenerative research. These are things that like, affect most people in the world, right? So of course they're gonna like shunt a bunch of the money towards that. But they are a little bit apprehensive to like a little bit more risk taking types of projects. And that's not like risk taking in terms of like put a person at risk. It's like more risk taking as in it's a project that has a low likelihood of success, but if it were to be successful, it would be very, very, very highly impactful. And so the thing with those is a lot of the times they're so early on, and they require so much like effort or work to get to that it's like I think the NIH or like some organization that's giving the money doesn't perceive it to be like so immediately impactful. But like something like that really stands out to me that's happened in the last decade is CRISPR, like the ability to edit the genome. And so that's something that uh, you know, came out of like not traditional work that was happening in science. And I don't think people really thought of the implication of it as far down the road as it has become, which is like it's been useful in helping researchers like manipulate the genome to do their research, but now it's making its way into like therapeutics. And I think that's something that the NIH, generally that type of research, they wouldn't want to put money or a good amount of money towards. So I think at Research Hub, what could be cool is um, people can just like start building up little communities and crowd fund things themselves and put bounties together to push some research forward. So we're very much like the venue to help facilitate these things. Like like Uniswap is like just the venue to help facilitate like interactions and trading between things. Like we are a venue, but instead of transacting for finances, where it's like transactions of information with each other. So yeah, I think that's probably something that Research Hub can help promote just by being open and accessible to people, just like, like Farcaster and Warpcast is like the venue for people to socialize.
I love that. I love that you guys are evolving, that in a lot of ways. Broken incentives and fixing those incentives, right? So taxpayers traditionally are paying institutions for research. So shouldn't this research be available to the public? That's the question.
It should be. It should be, and it will, and it will be. The White House is passing. Well, they already passed like I think it's an executive order, but to make all federally funded research open access by I think January 1st of 2026. So this is like a really big push and kind of like a really big deal. So it's on its way there. But I think the current like structure of academia is very, 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 very focused on like getting high quality citations. So the idea here is like, as a researcher, my job is to get into some big journal, and that big journal will get me a ton of citations. So people citing my paper. And that's like their North Star metric. That's what they're optimizing for. And like the downstream effects of the researcher optimizing for that is they'll do things like hoard their data for 3 years so they can build like this big swath of information so they can even make it to that journal. So like, why is that a problem? That's a problem because as the taxpayer, you're paying, the NIH to give money to these researchers so the researcher can find a solution or an answer or put something into like the public body of like knowledge around a topic so we can help build out a therapy for people, right? Like as a taxpayer, you don't care if like the researcher is doing this cool, fun thing. You want them to use your taxpayer dollars to give me a therapy for this. Make sure there's a biomedical device to help treat this or help save my, family member or my grandparent or something like that. And so the system of publishing now makes and incentivizes that someone hoards the data for 3 years. So for Research Hub, we want to flip that on its head, and we want to try to give money and promote financially incentivized people to publish their content and their data more in real time versus hoarding it over 3 years. There's been a push to do this in the past. It's called the open science movement, where it was kind of like, hey, it should be, you should want to do this because it's a public good. Like you should want to do this because that's what you're supposed to do. And what you find a lot of the time is like people they want to put their career above what the public good thing to do is. And I think that's where the financial incentives come in, because and also building out this like amazing set of tools that makes it such that someone needs to use our platform. I like kind of, this is akin to, I've used this analogy before, but like electric vehicles. Like electric vehicles, there was a push like 20 years ago to make sure like electric vehicles were a thing, but they were designed really terribly. They were not economically advantageous, but they were saying, hey, this is better for the environment, please just use them. And at the time it failed tremendously because people are not going to give up some other benefits just to do the public good. But when you have Tesla roll around and then they give you, oh, you reduce your maintenance costs, the car goes faster than other cars, it's got really cool technology in it, and then as a byproduct, you're helping the environment, then people run to it and it's taken off and it's gotten, the success that it's gotten. And I think science needs something like that, where we need to build a platform that has all the tools you need. It's got the right like economics for you to need to use it. And the byproduct of that is people are publishing openly and more in real time. And I think that's where the Web3 side of things and the financial incentive comes in.
Right. I love that you're talking financial incentives, right? I mean, I started this interview off, making money is fun, and, good investors follow the money, right? I mean, people follow the money, right? So, in fixing those incentives, how are people making money from Research Hub, right? I want to make that really clear for the audience, right? So we've already talked a little bit about these bounties from answering, actually, providing research. And then we've also talked about migrating your research onto Research Hub. You can get paid to do that. Are there any other ways that I'm missing that exist for anyone to make money and value off of Research Hub?
I would say those are the main ones. And like if you think about it, like the whole reason behind these financial incentives is researchers spend a lot of time in the lab, and there's two things. So researchers spend a lot of time in the lab, and researchers don't really have a really hefty wage, I would say, when working. While they're really like creating new science, like they should be, I'm quoting Eden Draper here from SciCon last year, like scientists should be seen as rock stars because they're like creating the future, because like science turns into innovation, and so they should be seen as rock stars, but they really are not. And so like I'm thinking scientists are not really earning a lot. Scientists are spending a lot of time in the lab. What if they could earn just a bit more by spending their time, instead of like, scrolling Instagram, going on Research Hub while they have their experiment running, maybe answering a question, earning some money for just a dinner out or something like that. That's kind of like the whole premise behind the bounties and these little rewards and so on. We want to give people something in return for the value that they could bring to the scientific community. And like I think Research Hub is doing a pretty good job with that, with like the bounties and the rewards from the papers.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
to add on to it, maybe like one other one, just being explicit, is incentivizing peer review. So the foundation is putting up $150 bounty for people to do peer review. So that's like another direct way that like someone who has expertise in the field can earn some money. And then the other way is to apply for funding. So we have like different cohorts. We were alpha testing this with some small amounts, so they're $5,000 grants, but over time that amount's going to scale up. So if anyone has any ideas of they want to like kind of get like some kind of cool like database running, or they want to like run a wet lab experiment in the lab, they want to do some bioinformatics, they want to do RNA sequencing, something like that, they can kind of upload this little tiny mini grant. We call it pre-registration, where you outline the details of what you want to do. And then if you get whitelisted for it, you can get put up on the platform as you saw, and then people can crowdfund it. So that's another kind of direct way where someone can receive funding.
Got it. So we covered a lot about the users. Let's talk about the investors. Shouts out to all the investors out there. Is there value to investors? I see the landscape of science in general is much bigger than, say, for example, gaming, right? Pharma alone is bigger than gaming. Yet the free crypto market does not reflect this. So me as a trader, I see deep value because this means we are so early. But on a bigger picture, besides like a retail crypto investor like myself, just wanting to get some RSC bags, who might be a big major investor down the line for you guys that would be a huge win in the future of Research Hub? Like think, biggest picture, institutional, ultimate goal. Who do you guys want to, who could actually benefit from actually investing in this, and why would they?
So I would say like the thing you could do, if you're interested in like DeSci, the whole ecosystem, and like how, science is trying to like actually blockchain is trying to fix, the incentives in science. You could probably look at like what happened with other DeSci projects. For example, I know VitaDAO, for example, they're another big player in the DeSci space, and they got Pfizer that invested in their product. So I would say like every DeSci project has its own niche, and so it really depends on like what caters to specific investors. We've been really I would say the Research Hub team has been really how can I say um, lucky to find amazing investors like the one that we put together a panel at SciCon 2023, where we had Adam Draper, we had Joseph Jacks from OSS Capital. So I guess it's really it depends on like if you click with the mission of the platform. We've been lucky enough to find investors that click with our mission, and so I guess it really depends on like what you're looking at. The DeSci space is just getting started. There's a lot of like stuff in there, so it really depends on like what caters to your interest.
And also something that like we think is going to be really exciting too is like this funding feature that we have, which is like I mentioned, it's like kind of a crowdfunding feature. And so you can imagine a subset of like pharma or different businesses or biotech companies that might want to put money, and that they actually do have these programs. They're called sponsored research agreements. Usually they put $250,000 towards funding research that in turn might help them develop a product out of. But one of the big things there is like universities take a ton of overhead costs with that system, and it's really slow. It takes usually many months to get through. And so the funding that happened on Research Hub, we just did a cohort. It finished completed funding in 7 days. Again, this is like an alpha test at a small scale, but to be able to accelerate that, as well as maybe cut some of those overhead costs, might be incentivizing these big pharma companies to want to come and route their funding through Research Hub rather than going through like a slower, laborious, like sponsored research agreement type of deal. So just something to consider as well.
Got it. And lastly, let's talk about RSC, right? And the culture that that's creating. Jeff, I think in an interview that you guys just did on, I think it was maybe the DeSci podcast just dropped fresh out of the lab a couple of days ago, You said maintaining open permissionlessness while maintaining rigor and quality is an unfortunate dichotomy that exists. And I thought that that was just very well said. Anytime someone uses the word dichotomy, my ears stick up. It's my smooth brain gets excited. But I think this may be a battle for tokenomics, right? So how do you guys see RSC specifically creating a new culture?
Yes, it's a really good question. And it is a dichotomy because I mean you see it a lot too with like kind of the open permissionlessness of like, blockchains. You get everything. You get like the high quality, highly rigorous, dApps that come out of it and like token design stuff. And then you have like some of like the really low quality kind of scammy things. And that's like the unfortunate kind of necessity for like moderation in this short term. But where we think that there's one missing piece of DeSci, in my opinion, that's still left to be figured out, and that's the idea of reputation. So you can do all these different behaviors on different platforms. You actually have done a lot of scientists have done behaviors not on platforms. They've done it at a conference. They've published something. They've received funding from the NIH. These all go into like this qualitative metric in everyone's mind about someone's reputation. Like someone who is like an undergraduate, they're like a second year undergrad versus someone who's a professor. There's a clear distinction between their reputation. How do we help try to, at least as best we can, quantify that and then use that as like a tiering system or like a system to be able to allocate things differently or trust or give some kind of extra color or context to people better? Because you can imagine on say like on Research Hub, someone comes and gives me a peer review. I would like to maybe gate my peer review if I'm requesting it. I want to say I want someone who's a neuroscience expert, and they need to have at least done these things to do it. And so and what's I think really important is making this reputation portable. So some other Web2 platforms have tried like a reputation system, but the big problem is you can't take your reputation and you can't move it to another platform. And this is where like the strength of something like Farcaster as a protocol with Warpcast as a client on top of that, I think that's where it's successful, because if we have something like Research Hub running as a protocol, then or at least making the reputation portable, then that can get moved to other people's platforms. They can plug into it. We can plug into some of the behaviors that the users are doing on those platforms and integrate it into this holistic, almost like a FICO score type of reputation. And I think that's the missing piece that's going to help that dichotomy be less of a dichotomy.
Very cool. That's an awesome answer. Riccardo, anything to add? How do you see RSC creating a new culture?
Yeah, I mean it's about a culture of like earning by providing knowledge, which is pretty cool. Earning with your knowledge. It's something that I'm really like kind of like putting out there. It's like, you have
Earn to learn or learn to earn.
yeah, call it that way. Yeah, that's another really cool way to say it. Yeah, I just love it. I think the concept is great. Obviously, like we know we're not gonna make it, right at the first shot. So it's an iterative process. We need to fine tune it over time. We know people will optimize for some stuff, and we'll need to take action. So it's the cool thing about this is that is the community that's gonna take action. Is like the whole the people in our Discord, in our chats that are gonna, come together and come up with another new method to raise the bar for the culture on Research Hub, which I think is already pretty amazing because, as we were saying before, we sometimes don't even need moderators because the users are already a moderator of the platform. And so that's really an amazing culture that we're perpetrating at Research Hub. So hopefully that continues and actually gets even better.
Right on. All right, speed round. I've been listening to way too many hours of Anthony Pompliano for many years. So we're going to do a shouts out to him. Quick speed round, just one word, one sentence answers. First, what excites you guys most about Research Hub in only one sentence?
Yeah, so I probably just said it. Research Hub creates a way for scientists to basically monetize their knowledge.
Jeff?
Incentivized peer review.
One crypto project you guys are excited about outside of your own.
Ocean Protocol, big shout out to the guys at Ocean Protocol. Amazing protocol, amazing concept. They created the whole token engineering space, which is, amazing.
Um, uh, Zero knowledge identity projects. I think this is like gonna be really appreciated once other projects get to scale and realize how much of an issue identity and kind of spam is.
Shouts out ZK. One science project you guys are excited about outside your own.
Could that be a company?
It can be a company.
Neuralink. Big shout out to the guys at Neuralink. They're building something insane.
I think Illicit.ai is doing some really cool stuff with using AI to help kind of scour the scientific database of information.
Nice. Lastly, aliens, real or fake? You guys have the research, don't you?
Okay, I don't know if you have this question prepared because like you know about the bounty that was posted on Research Hub or not? Oh,
No,
you don't,
not even.
not even that? Okay, so they'll have to
It's a classic Pomp speed round question.
Oh, okay, then I think it's a great coincidence because I have to bring this up. So basically, you know how aliens were brought to the Mexican Congress or something? So they were basically brought into the Congress to show the aliens. And so what happens, like someone put up the kind of like the DNA of these aliens online, and so someone on Research Hub put together a bounty and be like, hey, can someone analyze the DNA that is available online and tell us if they're real or fake? So that was done on Research Hub. I can link you to it. And unfortunately, fake. So no aliens.
Jeff, do you have an opposite answer that's going to make me more excited?
Yeah, no disclaimer, I'm no astronomer here, but given the size and scale of the universe and like the rate of it expanding like that, I think that there's got to be something out there. There's got to be something out there. So something to look forward to.
Let's go. Research Hub Foundation. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time. Any last words you want to say on just getting involved and getting more people to participate in this awesome ecosystem?
Yeah, I would say if this all resonates, if you resonate with our ideals, just follow us on Twitter, join our community on Discord, just come on Research Hub, share your paper, share your knowledge. We'll be more than happy to welcome you.
Yeah, what Riccardo said, I say like the biggest things are just like go on the platform, researchhub.com, and like if you're kind of a consumer of information, go and browse it. If you'd like to like produce content on there, go do that. If you want to do peer reviews, they're permissionless, so go and like, filter for like peer reviews or bounties on peer reviews and go check those out. Like we hope there's something for everyone, and I think Research Hub's really trying to be this like kind of all-in-one platform where you can just go and get everything you need done on science, whether that's like funding, conversation, peer review, coordination with people, something like that. So just dig into it, get your hands dirty, and interact with the community because we're all mission aligned here, and we're all like trying to improve the culture of science along the way.
And give us feedback because feedback for us is the best gift because we're trying to grow, we're trying to get better. So please give us feedback.
Right on. You guys are changing the world one brain at a time, one smooth brain at a time. Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.